It's Electric Drives. Your electric vehicle future starts right now. Welcome to the show. I'm Anthony Algmin, and I'm joined by my co-host, Bob Reese. We created this show to make it easier for others looking to move to electric vehicles, and that's more and more people every day. We're out there using EVs in normal commutes and road trips, and we'll share the wisdom we've gained from living our lives with electric vehicles. You can join in the conversation by sending your questions and topic ideas to questions@electricdrives.us, by joining our Facebook group, or by becoming a patron at patreon.com/electricdrives to get exclusive content and help support the show. Bob, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I had a good drive last week.
Excellent. So today we're going to talk about some of your adventures in your many drives that you're on, some of the latest in what's going on out in the world and charging, and we're going to kind of see where things go from there. So tell us about where you've been driving, what you've been doing, and how's the charging in the world going these days?
It's sort of a mixed bag, but last Monday I left for Iowa and stopped for lunch in Quad Cities and charged at one of my favorite chargers. It's a Green Lots. Well, it's not really Green Lots. Green Lots has now been bought out by Shell Oil, so it's called Shell Recharge now. And it's a nice charger. It's 15 cents a kilowatt, which is pretty close to what it is at home, but it's a DC fast charger. And it's an interesting one because a lot of people have picked it out because it is so cheap as compared to other chargers, because most chargers are like 30 cents a kilowatt or so. So this is like half price. And so I stopped there for lunch and then stopped in Williamsburg, Iowa, another one of my favorite stops for a restroom break. And that's when I discovered Electrify America was doing an upgrade to their system. And as such, charging was free. So I stopped there for a few minutes and used the restrooms and then set out along my way and made it to Des Moines, got to the hotel. The hotel, none of the Tesla destination chargers were being used, so I was able to plug in overnight and got a full charge then. And then I had it was at a client that has a charger, a charge point charger, and their rate is 10 cents a kilowatt. And I parked there because it's also closest one to the door, the entry door, which is sort of a surprise. Most places they'll set the chargers, any type of charger, way in the back of the parking lot so that people just don't park there. And then back to the hotel, charged there. And then the next day I stopped in Williamsburg on the way to Quad Cities, stopped there for lunch. And since I was staying there for an extended period of time, I got a full charge that way coming back. I didn't sort of need it, but I might as well take advantage of it, because I didn't know if the hotel might be booked or not. There's been some times that when I've gotten to the hotel that I stay at in Quad Cities, the Tesla chargers are full because it shows up on their destination map. So a lot of Tesla people use it. And I stopped in Quad City at the motel, and when I was the only one there, so it was easy to set up. And then once I got done with dinner, I walked to dinner so that I didn't have to move the car. But I came back and there was a Tesla charging and there was another one waiting. So I pulled off early. I didn't need a full charge for my next day's stops that I was going to make, and pulled off of it and let the other Tesla take a charge. And then I drove to a resort up in Galena, Illinois, that had a Tesla destination charger and a regular 1772 charger. And I started charging there. And when I came out later on in the day, there was a Mustang that was looking to use the charger, so I let him go at it because I had enough charge then to make it to Rockford, Illinois. Electrify America in Rockford, which I knew would still be free. And so I let the Mustang charge overnight and charged it in Rockford and basically made it home on free charging other than the charge at the Quad Cities and at my customer. So it was a pretty low cost week.
Yeah. So, and that's one thing that I want to kind of point out is that when you're talking about the destination charging and most of the level 2 charging you ever do, that's mostly free, right? Like occasionally, like I know the charge point ones will have a cost associated with them, probably more than a lot of the other ones. But like Tesla destination charges, most of the hotel charging you ever get is going to be free, right?
Correct. Yeah, and I've only seen a few that have charged for using the destination chargers. Sometimes it's a nominal charge and sometimes it's an exorbitant charge because they're figuring that you're going to make it to their hotel with on fumes, so to speak, and you'll need a pretty big charge. So they'll charge you a flat rate of $15 to charge or something.
Oh, geez.
But
yeah, well, I mean,
as long as you use as long as you use PlugShare, you can filter out those and just go for the lower cost chargers.
Yeah. Do you ever, and this kind of comes back to an etiquette question, but like, do you ever find yourself like, can you go and use a hotel's charger without using that hotel, or like do you feel obligated, like if you're going to use can you even go to a hotel and use their level 2 charger? I've heard this on some of the Tesla forums and stuff, even the DC fast charging that's often at like a hotel location. I mean, in those we're all paying for, like no one's charging for free at a Tesla fast charger, but well, some people that are grandfathered in got free charging with their car, but like they still had to buy the Tesla, but that was part of the deal. But the fact is, like, most people now are paying for charging at those places, so there's, you don't mind the fact that you're taking up spot in their parking lot or whatever. But like if you get free charging from a hotel, like A, can you do that without being a guest at the hotel, and B, like is there any kind of expectation that you go into that hotel and spend some money there, or it's only for guests, or what are the rules of etiquette when it comes to like those kinds of chargers at a hotel?
Most of them will have post a sign saying for registered guests only. Mm-hmm. And some of them do actually turn off the charger. And when you check in, then they'll turn the charger on so that they can filter out people that are going to stop at the Wendy's next door and use the charger while they're eating lunch or something like that.
It makes sense that I mean they would have used it for guests, so for the free ones anyway.
They're free, but there's a cost to it.
Yeah,
it costs them, say, a couple $1,000, maybe $5,000-$10,000 to put in a level 2 charger, running the lines out there and putting in the chargers, and they want to sort of recoup that. And one of the ways is to provide it as a perk for the people that are coming to the hotel.
Yeah, and that seems totally reasonable. I think the moment you start charging, you like the ones that I had at my work, the charge point level 2 chargers, they were charging per kilowatt hour that you're getting. So at that point, like I'm a customer too. I'm using the charge and I'm paying for it, and all is cool there. I feel no additional obligation to go do anything at that hotel. But I would agree, like, it's in a gray ethical area at best if you're going to try to get a charge at a hotel when you're not doing business with them, at least, in some way or another. So I feel like that's I think that's something to consider. And the other question I had, because you went through kind of all of your adventures over like the course of a week, and I'm just going to ask you the question that I have to imagine is in some of our audience's mind, which is this really worth it? Is this really worth the hassle? Like, it seems like you've got to think a lot about your travel logistics and your charging and whatever, do you ever just wish you could just go to a gas station, fill up with gas, and go about all of your business without dealing with all of this? Or how do you feel about that? Because I imagine somebody out there is wondering exactly this, right?
Yeah, I don't see it as being out of the norm. It's almost like going to a gas station would be out of the norm, because you got to find a gas station that you frequent and that you're a member of, and so on. Then you got to wait in line to get a pump and everything else. And here, what I'm doing is, when I was doing some business out in Quad Cities, I just did my business, and lunchtime I just picked up a lunch from someplace and sat in the parking lot and ate my lunch while the car was charging. So I wasn't going out of my way to do it. And in the afternoon, when I took the restroom stop in Williamsburg, on the way to Des Moines, I was using the restroom, and I charged for, like 15 minutes while I used the restroom and made phone calls and so on. And then I got to the hotel in Des Moines, and I was sleeping. So it's not, once you get into the routine and start figuring out where places are and so on, you're not taking out of your normal operation. And even going from Quad Cities, I could have probably made it all the way to Des Moines just on the charge I had over lunch, but I needed to use the restroom. So since I'm using the restroom, I might as well charge a little bit, because you don't know if the hotel has availability for you to use the chargers, or the charger's going to be down or something like that.
I like your answer to this, and I certainly would echo the fact that, like, if you're just doing your normal stuff and there's charging available, you get some charge while you're doing your normal stuff. It's really not that hard to do, especially with the fact that we have like PlugShare, we have all of these resources towards helping us know, oh, the charging's over here. This is what it's going to cost. This is whether it's available or not. Like, all of these things are relatively straightforward, and you're rarely just sitting there with nothing to do, waiting for a charge. I saw my Tesla got another update overnight, and it's like, you have Sonic the Hedgehog now, and you just need to plug your video game controller into your USB slot. And I'm like, when am I going to play this? I'm not going to sit at work playing this. I'm not going to sit at home playing this. Like, when I go to a charging stop, I'm there for such a short period of time. By the time I get the controller out, plugged in, and like start playing, it's going to be time to go again. And it's so, I just, like, there's all of these entertainment options that I wish I could make use of, but I don't. And it's like so many things I could be doing, but I don't need to, because it charges so fast that by the time I'm ready to go, it's ready to go. A lot of times it's ready to go before I am. And so I definitely see that. And that's the key thing, is it's like, you're not on an island with this. Like, PlugShare cannot be overstated how valuable that application is,
Oh yeah.
to help you navigate wherever you are. You can easily figure out, okay, where do I need to go next? Like, your routes, you're going to the same cities a lot of the time, and that stuff. So you start to know, okay, these are the things that are around, and more things are popping up. What I'm curious about is, like, how much is popping up, like, in what you're doing now versus what it would be a year ago? Are there one more charging option? Are there 20 more charging options? Like, how are things growing from your perspective in the real world versus kind of what we hear about, like, oh, they're putting in chargers everywhere? Is that really noticeable yet, or are you seeing it become? I perceive from what you've been talking about lately, like, it seems like there's more and more times where you've got other people waiting, or you take less of a charge because there's a car waiting, or like you have to wait a little bit, or the hotel may be booked up with the charge. Like, is this a real trend, or am I just perceiving it based on other things I'm hearing?
It's growing, but not at the major extent that it will be over the next few years. And part of it is some of the funding that's coming from the government. And like, currently in the Peoria area, there are no DC fast chargers generally available, non-Tesla. But I know that there are some coming up in the next few months with the government funding, because they want to have chargers every 50 miles on the road. And Electrify America basically now is roughly every 100 miles. So this will fill in some of the gaps. But you get to Northwest Illinois, and there's little voids there, but there's there's a little town that put up a charger just a few months ago, and I see in PlugShare that a number of people are using it. If they're coming from Chicago and going to Galena, they'll stop at that place and charge up and have dinner, or walk around the little town and do some shopping, which is the whole intent of these little towns getting behind this and putting up the money for it, is that they're going, we can have somebody stop now for 15 minutes, a half hour, and they can walk through our shops, and it's some more revenue for us because they can see us on the map, on the PlugShare map, and know that here's how much it costs, and we can stop there on the way to Galena or something like that.
And when it comes to like the DC fast charging, like 10, 15, 20 minutes, that makes a huge difference. Like that could be, taking you from 45% charged up to close to 80% charge. Like you really get a lot in a fast charging scenario, especially if your battery's at a good temperature and what have you. And so like those short stops really can make a difference and get you to much further along in your journey and be a pleasant little, breather from driving that whole time. And that's where I really enjoy it from a road trip perspective, is that the car helps me be more conscious on the road of saying, okay, I'm going to get to, I'm going to do the next 2 hours and then I'm going to stop and I'm going to wait 15, 20 minutes and then I'm going to be on my way again. It's just, to me, it's just a more pleasant way of going about doing it, instead of, I've never been one to like pee in the Gatorade, jug or something like that. Like,
Right.
Just not, I'm too old for that. And so like, I do like the nature of just maintaining and topping off and not trying to get back to 100% necessarily, but just getting you enough to get a little bit further. And it's much more like the way you replenish your own energy as a person. It's really more like how we're managing it, the battery electric cars on the road as well. So it definitely is cool to hear you talk about some of these things, but I worry that people that are hearing it are thinking, oh, wow, this is really complicated. It's really not. You just condensed a whole bunch of adventures for a week into, 5 minutes of just recap, and really any given moment is pretty easy for you to handle. Like, and you do things that are, relatively complex compared to what most people are going to be using using their cars for.
Yeah, like the hotel that I stopped at in Galena, and I was there and I had started charging, and then the Mustang pulled up, and I knew that he wanted to charge and they were going to be touring around the area. And I figured out how much charge I needed to get to make it to Rockford. And I knew at Rockford I was going to be having lunch by the charging station. So I figured, so I've got enough to make it there with a cushion. So I'm set to go, and he can take over. And I don't need a full charge. I can get by with 60% or 50% or something like that.
That's great. And one of the things that I want to talk about, and we've filled up most of this episode already, but one of the things that's top of mind for me right now is that we're on the cusp of fall, and that the temperatures are going to start dropping, and things are going to get a little bit colder, and we'll cover this more in subsequent weeks as it really starts to truly get cold again. But is there anything, as we're at the tail end of summer, is there anything that people should be thinking about that especially pertains to electric vehicles as the weather starts getting colder? Is there anything unique that we should keep in our cars, or that we should be thinking about, or is it pretty much the same as a gasoline powered car in terms of either safety stuff or we'll talk about, like, certainly in the colder weather, the cars don't go as far on the same charge. We'll talk about that more later, but like, is there anything else that you're thinking about now, either from like a maintenance perspective or a good practice perspective? I'm not sure that there is. I'm just curious, like this time of transition, I don't know.
Yeah, there isn't really a lot going on with the car, so you don't have to change the oil out and look at the air filter and all the other stuff like you do with a regular car. I mean, they're basically pretty much maintenance free. There's not a lot to be done to the cars, so it's just a matter of having a shovel in the trunk and provisions in the car and those types of things that you normally do with a gasoline car. So really nothing out of the ordinary. I know you've discussed the aspect of the fact that you've got tires, specific tires, but I've got mud and snow tires, the regular all-wheel, all-season tires that have gotten me through for, I've done it for 20 years, so I'm not having a problem. But yours is a little more racy car, so you've got to change from slicks to actual snow tires.
Yeah, they're not quite slicks, but yeah, the Tesla Model 3 Performance does have summer only tires, which are performance oriented for sure. And so they really don't do well as the temperature gets colder. And I found, and this goes back to when I had bought an old school BMW 3 Series that had summer tires on it. For me, because I commute a lot in Chicago in the very cold weather, and I can't guarantee that I won't be caught in the snow or that that the roads will always be plowed. I like the reliability of having winter tires. Like once I saw even the rear wheel drive BMW, how it was with snow tires versus all seasons, I'm like, I'm getting snow tires all the time. Plus I enjoy the summer tires in the summer because they are more performant and what have you. So when I learned that the Model 3 Performance came with summer tires, I'm like, this is great. I get to buy winter tires again. I get to buy snow tires. Whereas most people are like, forget that. I am not dealing with switching out the tires or wheels or whatever, because I always buy separate wheels so I can just bolt them on, bolt them off, or what have you. And having done some autocrosses and stuff in the past, like I'm used to like having a jack and having that stuff. And that's kind of where my advice from what I know would be recommendations at this time of year is just keep an eye on your tire pressures, because as things start to cool off, and this is true of any car, but like it's especially noticeable, especially on some of these Teslas that have ultra low profile. I mean, like, what in the world is my car doing with 20-inch wheels on a sedan? Like, that's ridiculous. But I mean, that's what they have. And so there's very low tolerance. If your tires start to get low in pressure, you will very quickly run into trouble with scraping the rims or doing other issues. So like stay on top of that. The other thing to keep in mind too is like things I always have in my car. I always have a little mini air compressor so I can top off the tire pressures. I have a tire pressure gauge, and I also have lifting pucks. So on the Teslas, there's very specific lifting points. There's only 4 lifting points for the entire car, and they have little tiny, like almost nickel sized places for what they call a puck, and it's basically looks like a hockey puck, and you can buy these on Amazon or whatever. It looks like a hockey puck and has like a little, like it's a little protrusion, like a little nipple on it that's about the size of a nickel, and it goes into this little hole on the edge of the car near each of the wheels. And it's really important to only lift from those spots on a Tesla, and this is true of all Teslas, because otherwise you could damage the frame around the battery pack, which is serious stuff. And so it's good to buy a set of those pucks, keep them in your car at all times, because you never know if your car is going to need a tire repair replaced, or you're going to need help, jacking the car for some reason or another. You want to have those available, and they don't come with the car. Because conceivably you wouldn't have to use them with the car if you got it at exactly the right spot with the jack, but I would just advise not messing with it. And so I will always have those in the car with me. And then those are the key things that I always make sure that I have. Some people recommend having a tire flat repair kit. I don't, mostly because I don't want to damage the tire by using some of the goo inside of it. I've heard things about how that can degrade. So it's like, it's kind of it sacrifices your tire by using it, but it'll get you to where you need to go. What I did instead was I went to Discount Tire. As soon as, like, literally driving my car home from picking it up, I went to Discount Tire and I added insurance policies for all of my tires, because I was going to be driving a lot on these tires. And so I basically got the road hazard warranty. So if I get a flat at any point, Discount Tire will replace that tire at no charge to me. And so it's it's peace of mind. It cost a little under $200 or maybe $150 for tires that are $600-$700 a piece. Like, they're really fancy tires that I'm not thrilled about. But like it with Tesla too, they'll provide you a tow. If you get a flat tire, Tesla through their app will provide a tow anywhere you want for 50 miles. So I can have
Oh,
if I get a flat, I can have it go to the nearest discount tire to where I live, which is easily within 50 miles of my normal commute. But even I can take it to any discount tire, and discount tire will replace that tire for me at no charge, and then I'll be on my way. And so there'll be some time hassle, I'm sure, and they may not have that tire in stock or what have you, but it's peace of mind for me that when I inevitably get a flat tire, I have a plan. And so that's just something to think about, is what are you going to do if you get a flat? What are you going to do if you're, especially if you're commuting a fair distance, like you will at some point have some need for a tire issue or something like that. But I think we can certainly talk more about those kinds of things later. But it's just right now, this time of year, as the seasons are changing, be attentive to the tire pressures even more so than normal, and just be ready for a little bit of planning now makes your life a lot easier for when something that is undesirable may happen. So
yeah, my app notified me that my tires were getting low in pressure because generally it's 2 psi for every 10 degrees in temperature drop. So since it had gone down from when the tires were installed at 90 degrees, now on some of these nights it's coming on and saying, "Oh, your tires are low." So I did have to bring them back up.
Yeah, and that's really going to be common, in this time of year. So things to think about. Some good updates from Bob on the charging situation out there. Is Electrify America charging again now? I mean, by the time people see this, they certainly will. But yeah, so they are back.
Yeah, they are. Because I stopped at noon. I stopped at Schaumburg by Woodfield Mall, and it was free there. But there were 2 cars waiting to charge, and I had enough charge to make it to closer to home, so I let them charge. And by the time I got to the next charger, the freebies have been off. So I had to pay a full sticker price back to the normal. So I'm not sure what they updated in their system, but I know they are going to be doing extensive updates across the country.
Yeah, and they've had some reliability issues certainly with their equipment. So if they're swapping in more reliable equipment, that'll be good for everybody. And it's great to see that there's more and more charging coming out, more and more options for folks, and that's where we want to see it head. And so it's great to have the reports from the field and your experiences, and you see this stuff so frequently. It's a great source of information for folks out there. So thank you for doing that. And that, I think, will wrap it up for us for today. So don't forget to subscribe and hit that YouTube bell icon, and please send your questions and topic suggestions to questions@electricdrives.us, and we'd love for you to join us on Facebook and Patreon. All the links are in the show notes. Thank you for spending some time with us, and we wish you a smooth road ahead on your own electric drives. Thanks, everyone.